We all go through periods of darkness, challenges, difficulties, and it's common to get to that place of saying, what is the point? Today, we are exploring what the wider perspective may be when we go through this time and how we can embody greater love and greater light. So let's get started.
Welcome to the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, a place for the strong, sensitive, spiritual seeker to recognize the perfection of your human journey, spiritual worlds, through proven and grounded frameworks that support you to live in the wholeness you already are. For over the past 2 decades, I have supported people from all around the world, as well as Fortune 500 companies, to dissolve the divisions within them and live with greater empowerment and love. This podcast is an exploration of the paradoxes that befuddle us as we live our lives being both human and divine. Together, you and I, along with other experts, will navigate integrating psychology and spirituality, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the darkness and the light, to create greater sacred union from within. I believe through your remembering that you are innately divine, that you will allow yourself to more openly shine. So let's get to it, because your unique light is needed more than ever.
Hello, beautiful soul. I'm excited to have you back, and I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, where today we are exploring what is the bigger point to life, to these challenges, to darkness, and really how we can receive this time, potentially with less struggle, potentially with embracing this time of darkness and what it offers us, because we're given it every year in order for us to release, and in the release, understanding that there's an opportunity that awaits for us. So last week was me sharing about the sacred art of release. If you haven't listened to that, you may want to go back and listen to that episode. As I share, that's a time of shedding your old self. It's a time of release. And it brings up psychological challenges, loss, grief, that go along with our shedding. And so I also want to acknowledge that this time of year can also be a place where some of you may be mourning because you are going through a deeper grief than psychological loss. You may be dealing with family health issues, or a loved one no longer being on the physical plane with us anymore. And it's the first holiday without them, or it's the first holiday where traditions aren't being carried forward because of certain health issues. And so it's really being able to understand that there is a psychological loss piece, of course, to that, but we're also, in these instances, talking about a more physical loss and grief experience. And for that, I really turn to Christine Carlson. She's someone I have gotten to know personally over the years. She has walked the path of grief, and it certainly can be an important resource if that's something you're experiencing at this time. Whether you are experiencing a physical loss or a psychological one, of course, it's vital to give yourself compassion, gentleness, grace, as this is a learning to live without. And we obviously have judgments about living without. And I want to speak about where my expertise is, which is in the psychological realm. And today's episode is going into the psychological losses this time of year brings forward. Exactly. So we can explore the bigger picture of ourselves, our soul, our essence, that our divine self is trying to support us to recognize. And to me, it's very interesting that this time of year has gotten so busy, so out of hand, because in many ways it reflects our avoidance of the death cycle. And I know just bringing it up, people are like, oh my gosh, is this going to be a downer episode? I promise it's not. And that's what part of the psychology that we've been taught to avoid with the death cycle, when actually there are very important pieces that we are meant to gain from this time of year that are meant to lead us forward. And that is exactly why Christmas and the celebration of the light is during this time, because there is a sacred coming forward. And it entails us to be in the darkness and be present with what is old, what is outdated, what is ready to see you later. We're done with this. So again, on the priestess path, I shared with you more last week that this is a time of death. We're looking at nature as this mirror to guide us in how to let go. And what part of us are we respectfully going to lay to rest? Now, this was a very interesting time for me. We, in my part of my lineage that I celebrate, as we go into this cycle, it really is this understanding of what is, to get clear, what is no longer going to be carried forward with you. And so there is this representation of death with bones. Bones are what is left behind after our essence leaves, right? It leaves our body. So we've got this physical vessel that allows us, these bones that carry us and allow this physicality to us in order that we can be an expression of the love that we came here to be in our humanity at this time. And this life has impermanence. And so what dissolves is when we die is the vessel, is the human vessel, right? But our spirit continues. And what's interesting about the symbolism regarding bones is that it really wants you to be like very directly, like, I am going to look at the cycle of death. So I have two very interesting stories about how this cycle really came forward for me. So first was when I was meeting a group of friends at a restaurant, and I was waiting for them to arrive, and I see a family that I know, and I walk over and say hi to them, and we're chit-chatting and what have you, and then I go to leave to say, okay, good seeing you, see you later. I go to leave, I step away. The husband of the family calls me back, hey, Michelle, one more thing. I turn towards him, and a bone falls from the sky. Now, what is this bone? It's a rib bone from the second floor of a restaurant, landing right where I would have been, and was steps from being again where it would have fell on my head, right? And so I'm looking up, I'm like, what the heck just happened? We're just dying laughing, right? And this lady on the second floor of the restaurant, there's kind of like bars that separate the second floor from the first floor, and her plate of ribs got pushed against those bars, and one of the rib bones slipped through, right? And so the humanity, our human selves, are like, oh gosh, the crazy things that happen. But this is part of a spiritual path, or the priestess path in particular, where we're looking at this time and what bones represent. And so this is the queen of death saying something is ready for me to be done with, right? And so taking in that, bones just usually don't fly out of the sky and make their mark of where I was just standing, right? And so this is a way that symbolism can come in and help us get our attention if we're willing to look at it. And then the other piece regarding bones that came forward was I live by Lake Michigan, and I was going for a walk and found these two bones and picked them up because usually I'm hunting for sea glass on the shore. I don't often see bones, and certainly bones that are very clean and clear. And when I looked into this is likely the bones of seagull. And so honoring this energy of the seagull, of bird that takes flight, and what needs to die in order to take flight. As we look again at the metaphor, perhaps, of the caterpillar to the butterfly, going from being a one of the earth to one of the skies, and understanding that certain things need to die in order to be both of the earth and of the skies, of our humanity and of our divinity, of the darkness and the light, and hold both equally. And so this is where, because of our fear of death and avoidance of death and our fear of darkness, that we can hold one in a higher understanding or a higher experience than another, when really they are meant to support us to embody the love that we are in this lifetime as humans in our unique expression of self. And so the deeper meaning that has come forward as I worked through this energy is that the gift of knowing something in our bones, that expression, I know it in my bones. I know something to be true in my bones. That is embodiment. And so when we do the spiritual practices, we're connecting with our divine selves to help us remember our divinity. And then that divine remembrance is meant to be embodied. It's meant to be known in our bones. Because from that place, we live from less and less fear. And this is the opportunity in this cycle of death, is to put to rest the fears that we've been living our life around, and see through them, see the illusion in them. If I think back to aspects of myself that have become embedded in my bones, and I look at people that I've been fortunate to work with, what I see for all of us is there's some things that we naturally have gifts for, or have within us. For me, I have been blessed with a deep, in my bones sense of faith. Not that faith I can be certainly challenged with faith, but I think on average, I tend to lean towards having a lot of faith. And then there's other aspects that have been more hard-won for me and hard-won for others. And for me, that has been my sense of innate worthiness. And therefore, it's something that wants to continue to deepen and ripen and expand within my being. And so that's another element here of putting to death this myth that we go through one dark night of the soul, and about this one aspect of our life, and we're good to go. Sometimes, oftentimes, if there's a deeper core issue, we continue to spiral down within to get more and more of the core to what is on the other side of a sense of unworthiness, is more of our innate worth that our minds can't even comprehend, because our bodies haven't experienced it. And so this is the beauty and the gift to what is happening in the cycle of death that we miss if we are all about, just the fun side of the holidays. And listen, I want us to have fun. Please don't take that as not. In July, I did a whole, was it June? June, I did a whole month of the importance of play and having fun. And so we carry that forward with us in December, while also balancing that there is wisdom that is held in nature's cycles and in the darkness. And so year after year, we are given the opportunity to embed our truth more deeply at this time. So we can have the fun, we can go to the parties, and we can provide ourselves with this place of reflection of what is meant to go. And when I hear all the astrology forecasts for next year, it really is that next year is the water horse. We're going to be taking off. And so we want to make sure that what we're taking off with is more of our truth, more of our power, and more of the love that we are, rather than some of this old stuff that has created old patterns and beliefs that are holding us back. And so it's really honoring that there's certain things that are not meant to come forward with us, and what a gift that will be for us in the new year. It means also that we have to widen our perspective beyond our humanity for our divine selves to come through, and for our divine selves to have a vessel that it's able to work with that's clearer. And so just like I was saying with the experience of bones, the human self is like, okay, someone dropped their ribs and it just fell on the ground on the second floor. That's one way of looking at it. Our divine selves is looking for why is this, there's a deeper meaning that's coming forward, because this is a cycle of death, and there's something for me to pay attention to. And it's the same when these bones arise in front of me, that there's something to pay attention to. And so what have been the symbols, the guidance for you? Maybe it's not bones. This is my first year where it's really been bones, but maybe it's something else that is representing endings, a door shutting, something that is saying it's time to put something to rest. So this has led me to more deeply exploring my relationship to death, not in a morbid way, but to recognize what my ego is frantically clinging to. Life is in constant motion, right? And it's so interesting because so often I'm fortunate with the line of work that I do to hear people's dreams, their desires, and that requires change. And yet I know for myself, I try to tighten my grip on what is. I want to control outcomes and try to keep things the same, which is insane, because keeping things the same isn't going to, first of all, is not reality, is a lie, and is something that my ego is doing to try to control things that are outside of my control. And that means that fear is in charge. Fear is leading my life when I allow that to happen. And that is what the symbolism is coming forward to try to put an end to. Clinging is fear. The more my human vessel clings, the less space I make for the joys and pleasures to be received within me. Now, isn't that ironic? Because isn't our prayers, our visualizations to receive more joy, receive more pleasures of life, receive the blessings of life? And here's the ego clinging on to fear, trying to keep things the same when life is in constant motion. And I know the things that you and I are trying to hold on to, it's the good. And what I know is that there's more good for us. And it's just our ego that says it's just limited to this. And that is how we unknowingly fuel our fear. And so it's each of our jobs to be able to see it and honor the teachings with this. For me, I know that sense of like, I've been given so much. I feel so blessed and so grateful for what I have that I don't want it to go away. But the truth that this time, this cycle of death is teaching me is that eventually it all will. And turning to the truth of this reality has initially been difficult, but ultimately rewarding, freeing, because I am remembering a deeper embodiment of being in the aliveness that my essence came here to be, that your essence came here to experience, that we all came to experience. So here's a short synopsis of what I did, how I explored this, and ways that you may be able to bring into your life. And again, our ego tells us that Michelle is saying, you can't have fun, spend all this time in the darkness, whatever the ego says, it's going to take too much time. Literally, this can take 15 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on the depth you want to go to. For me, it's been like my weekends are full of the holidays and celebration. And then come the weekday, I got to get back to work, and part of my work is my spiritual path. And knowing that my office is going to close at a certain time for the month of December. And so I want to give myself this time so that there will be the celebration of light within us and within myself. So what I've done, number one, exploring my clinging. And really, where do I get tight? Where do I tighten within me? And then to recognize, how is this clinging actually causing me more suffering than my actual reality? And I have always been a proponent of facing our deepest fears. This is also someone who I studied with, Debbie Ford, many years ago, also I believe was a believer of this. Now and the reason why we face our deepest fears is because if you're a worrier, it means you're not facing them, and it just carries on in our life. It just carries on and on and on. And just think about the difference between I'm not going to face something, so it just keeps repeating and carrying on and sucking my energy and living in fear without my awareness of it, versus I'm going to set aside the time to face my deepest fear. Because when I go consciously in, I'm going to be guided how to live from more love in the now. And my deepest fear, perhaps your deepest fear, it's losing the people that we love. And it's not like I want to go there, but I want to see how my ego takes that, the love that I've been given, the love that you've been given, the love we've been given, and turns that into worry that takes away our joy from receiving the exact love that we've been given. For me, I feel like in ways I've been shown that caring and love is expressed through worry. And what this cycle of death has taught me is that that version needs to be put to rest. That version of how I've lived life needs to be done with, because it's actually not allowing me to fully receive the joy and the blessings of the love that I've been given. And so, how can this recognition bring more aliveness in the moment? Because the moment is all we have. I'll repeat that. How can we allow the love that we've been given be a celebration of the moment that we have in this presence, in the presence of it, and feel it and receive it rather than take it for granted? Because I'll share, for me, the person that would worry and shows care by worrying wouldn't be that present. And so when I was working with this cycle of death and the goddess of death, it was like a receiving of this love that I've been given. And what came forward is that song, What a Wonderful World. What a wonderful world. I'll link it to the show notes in case you want to connect with it. And I had the fireplace on, and I was alone, and I just danced to that song. What a wonderful world. Because the Queen of Death, the cycle of death, is offering us to experience life now and the blessings now, because there is impermanence to them. And then when my husband came home, I put the song on again and we danced to it. And trust me, that's not something I do every night. It's there to help us honor what we have. So it's a reminder that the more nurturance, the more that you want to bring forward in your life that's coming from love, needs your conscious nurturance. We want to consciously nurture that over fear and worry. You have this life with your particular circumstances to bring forward a certain flavor of love that you uniquely offer. And whatever that love is for you right now in your life, maybe you're not with a partner, but maybe there is a love that you feel in the divine or in nature or with a friend or with your pet. It does not matter, because that love is a love that can be embodied within you. But fear wants to take that away from us. Fear wants us to focus on the lack. And the cycle of death is asking us to receive in the present moment what we have right now. And then the second piece for me is that this has led me to a deepening of faith. That when something is, when a challenge or a loss is beyond my comprehension, can I trust and surrender that there's a bigger point than what my human self and mind and perspective can see? And so where this left me was with the question, can I trust and surrender to the divine so I can enjoy the ride, so I can raise my hand to the adventure even more? Because that's what I believe the divine wants from us. And my fear wants to cling. And when I face the deepest fears, I don't know the way. And that's where I turn to Megan Watterson, who offered a simple prayer that says, "Show me the way." And that's what I turn to. But I know I want to be the one that raises the hand and says yes to the adventure. And that's what I believe is on the other side for us in the new year. And then to say yes to the adventure, what do I have to face with a psychological death? Meaning, what old identities need to be laid to rest with honor and respect for how they have served us, how this aspect has served me, how an aspect of yourself that you're ready to lay of rest has served you. This is happening in order that the truth of who you are becomes so deeply embodied in your being, so that you know in the bones of your being the you that is so unique, that is a reflection of the divine that only you can be, and that you can honor that fully in its recognition of your unique expression of the divine. And so something needs to be laid to rest in order for that to shine and come forward more fully. And that's what this time is about. This is the time that we're in the darkness so that the greater light that's coming forward can be received. Back to Megan Watterson. She recently shared that salvation's original meaning, before it was interpreted in different ways based on different perspectives, that the salvation's original meaning is to be made more alive. The death of who we once were is to help us be more alive now by remembering our truth, love, and power now. Christmas, the birth of Jesus, Yeshua, comes in the midst of darkness. This coincides with how ancient cultures celebrated the winter solstice for the return of the light. Both traditions overlay as a reminder that in our darkest times, light will come forward. It does again and again. And that the aliveness that has laid dormant because of old versions of self, of beliefs, of perspectives, are now being put to rest so you can move forward as the embodiment of light. That is the promise, the gift of this time. Jesus, Yeshua, was born in the dark to remind us we are meant to remember that we are here to find our way back to that embodiment of life and light, the aliveness, the love that we were born to be. So I hope that this encourages you, that whatever challenge you may be experiencing, that there is more light on the other side of it. And again, I can't speak to what level of grief or what level of challenge that you are going through, just that I've witnessed and every side of grief and the whole spectrum, that eventually there is more light to be revealed, and we can't force it, but this is our time right now psychologically to invite this in order to free ourselves more fully. So I hope this supports you and encourages you, that all this psychological aspects that you tend to, without anyone knowing, matters. It matters more than your ego. Our egos will allow us to realize. And I honor you for honoring the calling that has called you to go inward, to explore the psychological in this way. And I invite you that if this resonates, to please share this with others, that even if your mind says they may not get it, or they might think it's too whatever, that you take the risk that there's an aspect of this that we are meant to be sharing with one another, and that you can be that for another. So, and it would be my honor, of course, if this episode was something that you shared, comment, liked, but whatever the calling that you have that supports you, to share it with others, because this is how we share the remembrance of the light in the darkness. So thank you so much for walking this path along with me. Until next time, know that there is nothing to fix, nothing to prove, just to remember.
I am so honored you have joined me today. If you enjoyed the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, subscribe so you don't miss any of our power-filled episodes. Also, if you know another who is strong, sensitive, and spiritual, and wants to dive deeper into emotions and ancient wisdom so they too can create profound peace and fulfillment from within, please share this podcast. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to reconnecting with you soon.